Well, it is a Thursday draft. Everybody all pumped up. NFL draft. They make that thing as big and better than ever. Every year it's just unbelievable the attention that NFL draft gets. And of course, the Giant fans wanting to know, is this the year that they're going to take quarterback? Are they taking a quarterback? Let's bring on Paul Schwartz from the New York Post, good friend of ours, and joins us here this morning. And he, of course, covers the Giants and has for many, many years. Good morning, Paul.
Gentlemen, how you doing?
We are fantastic. How about you?
Good. I have in my envelope the name of the player the Giants are going to pick at number 23. But, depending on what you want to give me for it, I'll open it up and reveal it right on the air for you guys.
All right. Is it going to be Patrick Mahomes, Texas Tech quarterback?
You know what? Just because we say that the Giants are very interested, or certainly more interested than usual in a quarterback, doesn't mean a first-round quarterback.
Right.
You know what I mean? From what everybody tells me, this is a really shaky year for quarterbacks. And in other years, some of these guys we're talking about, Deshaun Watson, Trubisky, Patrick Mahomes, would be borderline first-round guys. But we all know that these guys can't help themselves, and someone's going to get itchy and say, "Oh, we got to get one." And these guys are going to be overdrafted. They just always are in situations like this. So I would be really surprised if at 23 the Giants took a quarterback, because quite frankly, I don't think one there is going to be the value that they want. You know what I mean? I don't think, put it this way, I don't think at 23 they're going to be sitting there and saying, "Man, Patrick Mahomes is there. We have him as our 15th best prospect. We got to take him." I don't think that's the way it's going to shake out this year. But having said that, if the Giants take a quarterback in the second round or the third round or even the fourth round, people are going to say they took a guy with a good draft pick that's not going to help them for a couple of years. So, that's the always challenge with a team that has a franchise quarterback. When do you take him? So I think even if they take a guy in the second or third round, it'll be very interesting because it's not a need right now, obviously.
No, and the only reason why we bring up QB is because General Manager Jerry Reese did say he's looked at more quarterbacks, leading up to this draft than he has in a long time, and they are certainly looking down the road to saying, all right, how many more years is Eli Manning going to be our quarterback, and they do have to come up with a future plan. So, yeah, a guy like Mahomes, or maybe even the kid out of Pittsburgh, was it Peterman? High on a second and third round pick. I could see that, but I agree with you. Paul, I don't think he's going to be there. Those guys are not going to go with their 23rd pick. You've been covering this team a long time. You know the way they roll. What do you think they will do at 23 on Thursday night?
Well, I mean, I don't think they're going to just say, all right, we need an offensive lineman, we're going to take an offensive lineman. I mean, that's just not the way the Giants work usually. They stick to their draft board. And so, which is why last year, we weren't thinking cornerback, and they took cornerback. Remember the year they took Matthias Kiwanuka at the end of the first round, and, no one was thinking defensive end. They go for value. There's no question they go for value. Now, value and need, to say that they ignore need is silly, because they don't. If the value is close, they certainly, go for the need pick. If the value is close at cornerback and tight end, they're going to pick the tight end. I'm not the tight end market. I think the tight end market is deep. I know it's deep, and so I'm not so sold that they're going to say on the first round we got to take a tight end. Howard is not going to be there from Alabama. So if Njoku, David Njoku from Miami is there, I think they could take him, but I don't think it's a no-brainer that they take him. I don't think they're incredibly high on him at that pick, per se. And also, if you have to think about it, look at the team Jerry Reese has put together over the years. He's never valued a tight end that high. The last tight end they took in the first round was Jeremy Shockey. That was Ernie Accorsi in the first round. And, so Ben McAdoo's history with the Packers as an assistant there, they always threw to the tight end, but it wasn't always a marquee guy. So, I'm not so sure they look at this and say, man, we need a big, massive tight end in the first round. Don't forget they did sign Brandon Marshall, who's basically tight end size and can, run some of the same routes as a tight end. That's the guys they have. And I think they can take a defensive tackle if one is there, even though, I don't think it's a great year for that. running back, I mean, there's rumors they might go after LeGarrette Blount, which I say, they could sign him in the next couple of days, which makes sense. He's not a starter. Right now he's like kind of a tweener. He's a starter, but he doesn't, carry the load per se. He just, gets near the end zone and scores touchdowns, which is a thing the Giants don't do. So that would be something they could pair in tandem with Paul Perkins. I think if one of the tackles is there, maybe Bowles from Utah, I could see them taking him. I don't think they're in love with any of these tackles, but at 23, I think it's something they could do.
Hey, Paul, I don't know that he will be there at 23, but a lot of people will say that the Giants need a linebacker. If, because of this diluted sample at the Combine, Reuben Foster just kind of falls all the way into the Giants' lap, is this an organization that would take a guy with that diluted sample, that, quote-unquote failed test at the Combine?
Oh, that's a good question. And also I should have mentioned this. I definitely think the linebacker is in play. I think Cunningham from Vanderbilt is in play. I think Reddick from Temple is in play, and I think Davis from Florida is in play. Now, Foster I would not have put in play just because, he's a much higher ranked prospect than that. My guess would be, this is my guess, that a diluted sample will not take a guy like that off the draft board. They will examine and see what, their scouts and their people have uncovered on this guy. And if they said this guy's not considered a druggie, this guy's not considered a bad guy, the diluted sample, maybe he was overhydrated, this and that. Put it this way. In your scenario, if Reuben Foster was sitting there at 23, I think the Giants would not walk up to the podium. I think they would run up to the podium and put his name on the board. I just don't think this is as heinous a crime as, now, like I said, if they do a lot of research, which they've already done, and say, man, this guy he's kind of a punk, but I think as a player, I think they would definitely take him, and I don't think a diluted sample would screw up that.
We're tied with Paul Schwartz, New York Giants beat writer, New York Post, and a good friend of our program here, and a U-Albany grad. Hey, a couple other things, Paul. One, is there mutual interest right now with running back LeGarrette Blount?
I just mentioned earlier, I think a little bit of that is more agent-driven at this point, but I'm not saying it's not going to happen. It's not going to be a high salary move. It's not going to say they don't like Paul Perkins. They don't have a thumper. He's 250 pounds. He scored 18 touchdowns last year. Could he fit in as a short yardage guy for the Giants? Sure. Why not? Shane Vereen is not that guy. Perkins, I think they believe Perkins can be a number one running back, but, they could use a guy to do the heavy lifting. He's not a pass catcher at all, Blunt. The one thing you just have to always have buyer beware when Bill Belichick dumps guys. He's like, the players are sponges. He squeezes every little bit of juice out of them, and then he leaves them. And, sometimes they do good things, but often he is just right when he lets them go. So, he's a 30-year-old running back. If you get him, for a 2-year, $7 million contract or something, $6 million contract, $5 million contract, I could see it happening, sure.
How about your thoughts on, I know the schedules came out, everyone makes a huge deal out of schedules and travel and who you're playing and primetime games. What's your overall thoughts of this Giant schedule? How tough do you think it is?
Well, yes, most of the people who make big deals out of it are people like me who then look at it and say, oh, damn, I have to go to this on this date, I have to go here. And and the players kind of shrug and say, who are we playing first? At Dallas? Yeah, okay, we figured that, we always play at Dallas in the first game. And, the players, there's no question the players, unless, they're coming from a different team and they want to see when and where they're playing their former team, they don't look at it per se and say, they look where their buy is. They say, okay, mid-season, that's fine. But they kind of shrug at this stuff. We knew who they were playing, and we knew they had 4 West Coast trips. The Giants kind of wanted, they put a request to the league, could you please, lump 2 of these trips together so we have the option of staying out there for the week. The league did not do that, so that's, but the Giants don't mind really. I talked to someone, because the trips are so spread out, they don't have anything, in back-to-back weeks or anything, or, 1 week and then 1 week home and then 1 week back on the road. So that's not bad. Going to Thanksgiving game in Washington is, That is not good for people who want to celebrate Thanksgiving. But I think the players, they're working Thanksgiving anyway when they have a Sunday game. They can't go home. Sometimes some of their families come in, so I don't think that'll be that outrageous for them. They won't be getting on a plane. They'll be going to Washington, and then they have Thanksgiving weekend off. So that's not too bad. Hey, look, it's a hard schedule, and the one thing that's interesting is 3 of the last 4 games are at home against division rivals. So, if you're a season ticket holder, think of it, guys. You don't see Dallas, Philadelphia. You don't see Dallas Cowboys, Philadelphia Eagles, or Washington Redskins anytime before the middle of December. So that's that's a lot of robbery action crammed into the late part of the season.
Hey, Paul, one more from me. I'll let you go. And this is old news, but I was away last week. What's your thoughts on the Eli Manning controversy with the memorabilia scandal, or whatever you want to call it? And what is going to become of it? Is it going to go away, or is there going to be more? There's going to be more storylines coming out on this.
Well, it's not going to go away just because it's a lawsuit, which is going to be heard, and so public information will come out of that. Do I think Eli is operating a illegal memorabilia cartel out of his 10-year-old Toyota whatever he drives now SUV? No, I don't. And I do think this is more driven by some memorabilia dealers who might not be totally on the level, and they're trying to cut their losses and sue everybody under the sun, including the Giants and John Mara and Brandon Steiner. They're suing all of them. But what makes me stop and pause a little bit is Brandon Jacobs says that he has some football touchdown footballs that he has, and a Super Bowl jersey which he's told is not authentic. So he's kind of wondering what the heck went on in there. So was there something going on in the Giants locker room where some of these jerseys that were supposedly game worn were not? I suppose that could be true, which is not good. It's not a federal offense, I guess, but it's not good, you know what I mean? And you do have to be careful here because, if there is a hint of that with Eli, and something is proven, he banished, the league's marquee player, Tom Brady, for 4 games for Deflategate. And so, you can't just dismiss this because, if there's a hint of this, which becomes more than a hint, then would he feel obligated to, sit Eli for a game or two? I think that's a fear. I don't think it's a strong fear right now, but I don't think you can just dismiss it out of hand and say that will never happen because who thought that would ever happen with Tom Brady?
Paul Schwartz, always a pleasure, man. Thanks. I know busy week for you. Draft night on Thursday. We'll get back in touch when we have all the particulars about what the Giants have done, and we'll react to it a little bit later on.
Okay, thanks. What about all Great Danes lacrosse? Their Final Four this year. I've watched some of the games. They look more complete with the face-offs and defense than they have in the past. You're
100% right, and that was the word at the beginning of the year. Somebody very much in the know said to me, hey, this team, can they win the national championship? He goes, I don't know if they can win the national championship, but they can get to the Final Four.
And I thought they were crazy when you lose to Thompson.
But they're good.
Man,
they are good. They're at the next. They are playing at the next level from what we have seen. And they're good every year. What degree of good are they? They're very good.
Well, I was sitting at Hofstra University a few years ago with my son, watching them play Notre Dame in the semifinals.
Yeah, I was there, Paul. Right? I was there. Yeah.
Right. And I'm watching that game, and I am far from a lacrosse expert, but I'm just said to myself, I don't know how you can win a game like this if you can never win a face-off. You never. You know what I mean? You score and you don't get the ball back. They score and I didn't realize just how much of a glaring need that was, and now I watch them, and they get the ball back, which is that seems to me to be such a crucial element that they've added. It's great, get to the Final Four. It'd be great. Yeah. I'm not a lacrosse guy, but I watch them and I get a little more into it, so it's good.
Yeah, they're outstanding, and they are clearly now the headline locally here in the capital region. Slowed down a little bit now, hoop season all over. So the lacrosse and UAlbany has taken the lead in terms of our top local sports story for sure.
Yeah. And let me ask you one more quick thing.
Yeah.
Are the Great Danes recruiting players for basketball? I don't see a lot of names and faces and, guys bringing in. I mean, obviously they're going to need some help, but they Are they making some moves there?
Only if they're from Australia.
They got 3 coming from Australia.
3 coming in, and one kid who has been playing out of school in Florida is supposed to be legit next year. So we'll see.
An Australian who played at Florida?
Yeah, in Florida.
Yeah. Oh, I think Will likes that because you can never criticize a guy when he comes from Australia because who's ever seen him play, right?
Right. And usually when they land at Albany, they're pretty darn good. They had a great success right there.
They are pretty good. Yes, they are pretty good, so that's fine. All right, guys.
All right,
thanks.
Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Always a pleasure.